Hello, welcome to Library Connection. I'm Mandy Cantrell, Youth Services Director at the B.B. Comer Memorial Library here in Sylacauga. Before I get started, I want to thank TV47 and Chris and all the people who help us to put on our program. I'm excited about the program today. At the library, you know, we have many books for children, and sometimes we get books about adoption, foster care, different things like that, and they are wonderful to read. So we thought it would be such a nice idea to have Tim Crist and Peyton, his daughter, here to talk about adoption and foster care.
Yeah.
Now, well, thank y'all for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
It's a cold morning, I know, to be out, but that's okay. We've had a lot of cold mornings lately. Yeah. Well, would you just tell about yourself, and then Peyton, you can tell a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Sure. So I'm Tim Crist. I serve as the manager of church partnerships with Lifeline Children's Services, and basically what that means, I get to work with churches across the state of Alabama to have necessary resources to help minister to foster families, to adoptive families, to vulnerable children, kids in foster care, kids going into foster care, just part of the 140 million vulnerable kids around the world. So we know that the call of the Lord is on the church to rise up and to minister and to take care of these kids, and so that's what we want to help them do, is make sure they have everything they need for that.
Wow, so many children. I didn't know.
Absolutely.
There were so many.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. And Peyton, thank you for coming today. Tell us about yourself. What grade, what school do you go to?
I'm Peyton. I'm in 6th grade, and I go to Norwood.
All right, good. And I know that Peyton is a reader because she comes in to get books at the library. So I've known Peyton several years. We're glad you come in. You also are involved with Community Playhouse, Southern Dance and Performing Arts.
Yes, ma'am.
You enjoyed that?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Good. That's great. We might talk about that in a little while, about some of the plays you've been involved in. Well, Tim, what is Lifeline Children's Services?
So this is a ministry that started in 1981, and it started actually as a pregnancy counseling ministry. So counseling moms and dads who found themselves in unexpected pregnancy. And from there grew into, as we were coaching moms and dads to have life-giving options for their child, we realized that the need was to have an adoption program for these moms and dads, for their children that were going to be born. As we're coaching them to life, we want to make sure they have options for life. And so a domestic adoption program was born a few years after that, and then the desire for adoptions in China became just growing and growing. And so that was our first international program, was China. And today we have adoption programs in 18 different countries.
Oh, goodness.
With domestic, and we still have our pregnancy counseling ministry. We still do all of that. We also are involved in family restoration or foster care. So we have resources and training for families involved in foster care, families who want to become involved in foster care, and then also we've got a resource that's called Families Count, and we can talk about that in a little bit. But it's actually a parenting curriculum that is hosted by the church, facilitated by the church, and it is aimed at moms and dads who are seeking reconciliation, their children to be brought back home. And so we're so excited about that ministry. We've seen just tremendous impact with that ministry, and families being reunited and families being changed and transformed, so that kids don't come back into the same things that got them in care in the first place. And then we also offer education services for kids that maybe need to have just some help, some boosts along the way to get their brains back on track. And that's not meant to be in a derogatory way. It's just scientific fact that trauma creates brain issues, and so we help to rewire that brain a little bit to where it needs to be. And then also counseling services for foster and adoptive families, and so much more. But that's kind of an overview of the 5 areas of ministry.
That is a lot.
Yeah, it sure is.
Now, so you work with a church, or with a group of churches. So if anybody wanted to get in touch with you, like the classes you were talking about, that's great. How would somebody get in touch with you?
You can email me at tim.crist@lifelinechild.org. That's an easy way to get a hold of me there. I'm around town, so you can get a hold of me anywhere you see me, flag me down or whatever. But I would love to talk with you or your church about how to get involved in caring for families and vulnerable kids in our community and really around the world. That's another area of ministry we have, is international partnerships to help churches and organizations who are doing orphan care in their own backyard in other countries. And so we want to partner them with churches here to be able to make that connection.
Wow, what a network you have there of working for everything people need. It
Right.
seems like, yeah, that's
Right.
great. Now, you know about foster parenting and about adoption, I'm
Yes.
sure, because
A little bit,
Peyton
right.
is your child. She's
That's right.
adopted,
She is.
and you have foster children.
We
right?
do. So we adopted Peyton 11 years ago. It's her birthday as we're filming
Yes,
this.
happy birthday, Peyton. 11
So,
years old.
so we actually took her home from the hospital. She was 3 days old when she came home with us, and we're the only home and family that she's ever really experienced, and so we're thankful that that has been the case. But we did foster several years ago. When we lived in a different county, we had 9 kids come through our home in the course of 2 years, and we are now active foster parents again, and we have 3 girls in the home.
Wow.
So we have a total of 4 girls in our home. So you know now how to pray for me, Miss Mandy.
Yes, I do. I only had 2 in mind. Yes. Peyton, I know you can handle it, though, yeah. Now, you have 2 older brothers, is that right?
I do.
How was it growing up with 2 brothers?
It was easy with the oldest one because, you know, I was like really little when he was in the house with us because, you know, when I was like a little bit older, he didn't live with us. It was just me and Jordan.
He was older, yes.
So, but me and Jordan, we were, you know, I still love my brother now that I'm older.
I know.
But we would fight all the time, and I would just want to hang out with him, and he'd be too cool for me. And he'd go upstairs in his room and say, "Oh, I want you in here." And but now every time I see him, we're like, "Hey, Jordan. Hey, Peyton. Miss
They're
you."
inseparable now.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds very typical, doesn't it?
Right.
Siblings, and that's so fun. I'm an only child, so I can't understand that, but that's great. How fun. Well, like I said, I did not know there was such a need. How many children, several hundred children are in need of adoption or foster care?
Yeah,
or
so
something like that?
globally, the number is 140 million is the
Okay,
estimated
yeah,
number,
wow.
and that's put forth by UNICEF. 140 million orphans and vulnerable children across the globe. So that number equates to nearly a third to a half of the population of the United States. So that number really seems almost too big to fathom. And so a way that I like to break it down is that you could fill Bryant-Denny Stadium 1,300 times.
Wow, yes.
Right, or Jordan-Hare Stadium 1,565 times. So as you think about that, no child turns that turnstile twice. You fill it to capacity, empty it, and they keep coming in, and you fill that 1,565 times or 1,300 times. And so the thing to remember too is, though that number seems huge, and it is, each number is a name, each number is a face, each number is a story, each number is a precious life that we're called to care for.
Yes, yes. Now, I know you said vulnerable children. What exactly does that mean? I have an idea. But
Yeah, it's kind of a, instead of saying orphaned or, because that has had such a negative stigma in our society for years, we say vulnerable in that can include kids in foster care. It can include kids who are orphaned or who may even be double orphaned, meaning both parents have deceased and it's just the child that's left. And so in many international contexts, that's the case, where the kid is now honestly just roaming the streets, surviving.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
That's so sad. Well, what if someone wanted to be a foster parent? What is the process they would need to go through?
So to be a foster parent, first of all, I want to say that being a foster parent is not the easiest thing that you can do. It's one of the most difficult things that we've done as a family. I think Peyton would probably agree with that. But it's also very rewarding. And so making sure, first of all, that you are called to be a foster parent is the first and foremost thing. The second thing is that you can reach out to DHR or to an agency like Lifeline or to Alabama Baptist Children's Home, someone like that, to say, hey, I want to become a foster parent. And then there's a 10-week training course that the state requires. It's called TIPS. And you go through that. It's 3 hours once a week for 10 weeks. So it's a total of 30 hours of training to be a foster parent, become licensed in the state of
That's
Alabama.
good, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to be thrown into this.
No, not at all.
Yes.
It's very, very in depth to understand. The biggest thing trying to understand is that trauma is real. Trauma is not a bad word. Trauma is one of those things that we need to understand more than we do, and that trauma is just kids' background. What has the kid's background done to impact and affect that child?
Goodness, wow. Now, do you have to be married? Can you be single? Are there things you have to qualify for? And I will say, I know it has to be you and your wife and Peyton and your son.
Absolutely.
The whole family has to buy in and agree to the
Absolutely,
situation.
absolutely right. Because if it's not the case, then it's going to be a very difficult road and an incredible journey. But it can be married couples, and it can be occasionally single ladies can qualify to become a foster parent, and that's just one of those stipulations that the state has.
Sure.
But even with married couples, there are things that you have to pass. Like you have to be married for a certain amount of time. You have to be able to pass even a financial background check and a background check on yourself to be able to qualify to be a foster parent. Because this was a great reminder for us when we were going through our class was by our social worker said that these kids are coming into foster care, but imagine if your kid was going into foster care. Would you want them to be with someone who has been vetted and has been checked out, or would you want them going just to anybody's home?
Oh, no.
And so we want to make sure, right, that foster parents are cleared in every possible way to care for these kids.
Sure,
because the idea in foster care, in majority of cases, is that temporary care for the children, because we want them to go back home. That's what God has intended for the family, is for the family to be united. So when that's a possibility, we want to provide that temporary care for these kids. And when it's not a possibility, then it's the understanding that it's going to be more permanent or long-term, with options that come with that through potentially adoption of the children, or just as the kids become adopted by someone else, which is also a blessing as well.
Well, we're going to pause for a commercial break, and we'll be right back and talk some more with Tim and Peyton.
Has been dedicated to our customers and excellence in all areas. With constant improvements to our facilities, to adding new products and services to better serve you, our team is fully engaged in all the communities we serve. First Bank of Alabama knows that time is money, so we offer hometown services with advanced technology that allows you to bank on your own schedule. We want to be your community bank, so stop by. Come see us at First Bank of Alabama, where you're always first.
Marble City Pharmacy in Sylacauga is your destination for the highest quality health care. Our knowledgeable pharmacists are always available for questions about your medications or advice on taking over-the-counter products and supplements. Our friendly staff can assist you in choosing from our full lines of compression hose and medical equipment. And don't forget our gift department. We have a great selection of unique gifts for every occasion. Stop by and see us today. Marble City Pharmacy, here for life.
Coosa Valley Medical Center, one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama, is also Sylacauga's largest employer. Services from the emergency room to surgery to cancer treatment to post-stroke care. You won't believe what's right in your backyard. It's Coosa Valley Medical Center in Sylacauga. So, if you're sick in Alabama, choose one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama. That is Coosa Valley Medical Center.
Hello, welcome back. I'm talking with Peyton Crist and her dad, Tim Crist. We're talking about adoption and foster care here in our area. Peyton, would you mind sharing your story? This is not the first time you shared it, I believe. Didn't you share it at the Resources for Women?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and I hate I missed that. But Peyton, would you share your story with our audience?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, my name is Peyton Crist, and this is the story of my life. In 2006, my parents attended an adoption seminar and knew the Lord was calling them to adopt a little girl. Over the next several years, they prepared their home for me with prayer and love, not knowing where I would be born or what I would look like. They continued to pray for their future daughter. My mom and dad began their adoption planning in China. In China, girl babies are often unwanted and left abandoned or raised in orphanages. When the regulations of China changed in 2007, they switched countries to Guatemala. New political restrictions were on rise at the time and caused Guatemala to close the country to international adoptions. Honduras was the next option, and the pilot program failed to open. So my mom and dad prayed for the next steps. 5 years passed and their prayers for a daughter continued. In December 2010, my parents were contacted with an update from the adoption agency in Birmingham. At this time, just a few hours away, a young homeless birth mother found herself pregnant with her third baby. This beautiful and talented woman named Amy was 8 months pregnant with a baby girl. Amy already had 2 children prior to getting pregnant with me. My half-brother and half-sister were in custody with a family member while my birth mother was homeless. In a country where abortion is sometimes celebrated, my birth mother chose life for me. Although she was homeless, she loved me enough to walk to the nearest pregnancy crisis center for help. That ministry, like Lifeline Children's Services, helped to serve women just like Amy who are experiencing a crisis pregnancy. The social worker was able to share the love of Jesus with her, provide hope through the gospel, and offer a positive solution. With the help of her social worker, Amy lovingly formed a plan for my life. She looked through several family profiles, and that's how she chose my family. My birth mother loved me enough to create a plan for my future, and my adopted parents had their prayers answered to have a daughter. It was all ordained by God for this to happen. On January 18, 2011, a baby girl was born at UAB Hospital. On January 21st, my parents took me to my forever home with 2 older brothers. Today, I'm 11 years old. I've met my birth mother, my birth father, and my 2 half-siblings. Since I'm adopted, throughout the years, kids have asked things like, how come your mom and dad are peachy and you're not? I didn't know how to answer them, so my parents helped me to begin telling my story and what adoption is. Due to challenging circumstances with my birth family, we mostly stay in touch by letters and pictures. Although their choices have not always been wise, I know they love me because they sought out the best for me even when it was tough. I trust the plans God has for me are good and serve an eternal purpose. Jesus loves me. My parents and family members loves me too. I'm grateful to have been raised in a loving and giving home, providing exactly what I need. Their actions demonstrate love just as Jesus demonstrated his love for us on the cross. It is that amazing love which spurs me on to share my story with others. It is my dream for all children like me to have a mom and dad.
Wow, I need to just stop right now. That's wonderful, Peyton. And I know y'all thought the doors were closing to China and other places like that, but she's just what you needed.
That's it.
Great.
She's the right fit.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great, and you are you're a very good speaker.
Thank you.
To tell that story. That's wonderful. Yeah. And I tell you, we have books. I know if you're thinking about adopting, and we have some books at the library. Like this one is about a little girl whose parents are about to adopt a child. So bringing home maybe your brothers would have. I'm sure you had a lot of conversations with them.
I sure did.
About bringing a baby home, and just some others about adoption. The Call of the Swamp is a special one to me. I like that one. And then Tim, you mentioned a couple of books, The Connected Parent and The Connected Child.
Yeah, Dr. Karen Purvis, the late Dr. Purvis, she did great work with Texas Christian University and just bringing to light trauma and what all that means.
Wow. I'm not sure if we have these, but I'm going to check when I get back to work.
They're great resources for people in education, foster parents, adoptive parents, just anybody that is interested more about trauma and what it means and what we can do.
Well, I know you said y'all explored adoption in China and Guatemala and other places like that. Did you so you did consider adopting from another country?
Yes.
And that's something people can do, or they can adopt right here from Birmingham.
From Birmingham, right, absolutely.
Right.
Or from Silicaga and surrounding areas as well.
That's right. I tell you, we're going to pause for a commercial break, and I've got some other questions I want to ask you about that. Hope you'll join us after the break.
Since 1848, First Bank of Alabama has been dedicated to our customers and excellence in all areas. With constant improvements to our facilities, to adding new products and services to better serve you, our team is fully engaged in all the communities we serve. First Bank of Alabama knows that time is money, so we offer hometown services with advanced technology that allows you to bank on your own schedule. We want to be your community bank, so stop by. Come see us at First Bank of Alabama, where you're always first.
Marble City Pharmacy in Silicaga is your destination for the highest quality health care. Our knowledgeable pharmacists are always available for questions about your medications or advice on taking over-the-counter products and supplements. Our friendly staff can assist you in choosing from our full lines of compression hose and medical equipment. And don't forget our gift department. We have a great selection of unique gifts for every occasion. Stop by and see us today. Marble City Pharmacy, here for life.
Coosa Valley Medical Center, one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama, is also Silicaga's largest employer. Services from the emergency room to surgery to cancer treatment to post-stroke care. You won't believe what's right in your backyard. It's Coosa Valley Medical Center in Silicaga. So, if you're sick in Alabama, choose one of the top 10 hospitals in Alabama. That is Coosa Valley Medical Center.
Welcome back to Library Connection. I'm talking with Tim and Peyton Crist. Tim is with Lifeline Children's Services, and y'all are based in Birmingham?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then Peyton, his daughter, just told her story, wonderful story. If you haven't heard it, you need to go back and watch this again. Well, we were talking about adopting from either here in the country or out of the country. What kind of cost does that involve? I mean, I'm not asking how much you, I mean, I'm just,
Right, no.
that's because that's something parents have to consider.
Absolutely, it sure is. And the thing with that is that the cost kind of goes on such a broad range depending on so many things. Like with domestic adoption, you could be asked to incur some of the medical costs of the birth mom if she isn't insured or hasn't been able to pay for some of those things. Then sometimes that gets rolled into the cost of adoption. With international, it could be different governmental fees, travel fees, lodging fees, different lengths of stay that you may have to have. Just as an example, in the Dominican, you have to stay for 6 months potentially, and so right, that can drive the cost way up as opposed to a quick in and out trip. So cost range can be anywhere from very minimal if you adopt through foster care. It could be just some minimal legal fees all the way up, I mean, into the 50s of thousands of dollars. So 50, 55, even more potentially, just depending on the program.
Well, and I've known parents who would do fundraisers.
Yes.
You know, we're trying to adopt. Would you please
Yes.
help us? And so that's a way for me to help.
Absolutely.
Maybe
And
I don't feel led to foster, but
right, you can absolutely help through that. There are grants available for adoptive families as well. So one of the things we do with Lifeline, we consider it a discipleship process to be able to disciple moms and dads who are called into this. And so we want to walk with them through that, point them in the right direction of different grants and agencies that may be willing to help.
that's great. Well, I know I'm going to ask, how long does it generally take? I know that's probably a wide range there too.
Absolutely, it's the wider range as the cost, but really the length of time can be anywhere from near immediate, but I don't want to set any false hopes on that, all the way up to 3 to 5 years potentially, just depending on different variables. And really the more particulars you put into the adoption, like if you want your child to be male or female, right, that automatically splits your selection in half and divides the time. Special needs considerations, if you're open to more special needs considerations, it cuts your time down even more. The more selective you get, the more the more time it's going to take potentially.
Right. Now that's something I hadn't thought of. Children with special needs, medical or whatever. There are families who take those specific children, or they maybe ask for children with special needs.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's another just wonderful and beautiful calling, because the kids need help. So
that is a wonderful calling. That is great. Now, if you foster children, is there financial help that in that?
there is. If you foster through the state, typically there's called a board payment. But I don't want to set any false hopes there, because you're definitely not going to make a living off that.
No, I don't mean that.
It doesn't, honestly, it doesn't cover the costs, but it is a help, and so that's nice. But yeah, there's a little bit of assistance with that.
Well, good. But you certainly don't do it for the money. You do it
no,
for the
and anybody that does it for the money is absolutely in it for the wrong reasons. And they'll quit real quick.
Yes, well, that's
or
good.
Or they'll
if
be
they
forced
do,
to quit real quick.
Now, do a lot of people foster and then end up adopting those same children?
Yeah, absolutely. That happens. Not the majority of the time, but it does. It does absolutely happen. If the kid or kids have been in care and the parental rights are terminated, which is one of those things that sometimes it's unfortunate, sometimes it's a necessity that you have to terminate those rights for the sake of the child, for the safety of the child. Yes. And then that child or those children become eligible for adoption. And right now, you can actually go on the Alabama Heart Gallery website and see
Okay.
kids that have come through the foster care system that are eligible for adoption.
Oh, goodness. Now, if somebody wants to foster, I know you said they have to take a class. Is this
Yes.
called the TIPS class?
TIPS
Is that
class,
correct? Are there
correct.
some coming up?
There's actually one that starts January 31st in Talladega, and there's one that starts February 7th in Sylacauga that'll be hosted at the SAFE headquarters. And for information on that, you can call our friend Shawanda Estelle. Her number is 256-761-6738. She would love to hear from you. And just to kind of give you an idea of where we are in our county, we have approximately 75 kids in care in Talladega County, which doesn't sound like a big number, but really it's bigger than zero. So we need to pay attention to that.
Right.
And along with that 75 kids in care, we only have about 35 licensed foster homes.
Oh, goodness.
So the gap is huge between number of kids in care, licensed foster homes for them to go into, and I'll tell you the greatest problem that we could have would be that we end up with a couple hundred foster homes for 75 kids to be figured out where they go, because the problem is not just in Talladega County, it's spread across the state and across the nation. So we have kids from Alabama who are in different states in foster care.
Really?
Kids from Talladega County that may be in a different county or even in a different state in care because there aren't enough homes for them to go into. So we have a huge need, and across the U.S. we have 407,000 kids in foster care.
That is amazing,
Yeah.
that need. But I know those of us who don't feel led to foster or adopt, we can. I know Southern Dance and Performing Arts did the Christmas Angels.
Right.
Were you in the Christmas Angels?
Yes, ma'am.
That's right. Yeah, I was there. I should remember that. And that was like you spoke, and
Yes, ma'am.
the money from that was to buy coats and things like that to help those families. I'm
Right,
sure,
right.
because if you've suddenly got 3 kids and it's this cold.
Oh, yeah.
3 coats and gloves and hats and warm clothes.
And the needs go even beyond that, right? It goes into different things, but one of the resources that we have is called Fostering Hope at Lifeline, and it is a free kit for you to figure out how to figure out what fits for your church to be able to support foster and adoptive families, so that you can come alongside them. Statistically speaking, families who have a support system stay in foster care longer, stay with foster care longer
Right.
than those who don't, because it is an absolutely draining ministry in the
I'm
home.
sure it is.
But to have support is huge, and so check that out, lifelinechild.org/fostering-hope. The biggest way you can help is provide respite for foster families, provide a dinner for foster families here and there. That's a huge thing, to not have to think about what you're going to make for dinner
Right.
and not have to
that's
cook it.
fairly simple for them.
Easy to do. Even a frozen lasagna is a massive blessing to a family in
Wow.
foster care and adoptive families as well. So that's out there, and ways to do that. Host a foster parents night out at your church.
Gosh, we could talk for a long time, I know. but
Absolutely.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Tim.
Mandy.
And thank you, Peyton, for being here. I know you had to miss a little bit of school. That's okay. Thank y'all so much for being here, and thank you for joining us on Library Connection.